Day one, after disclosure, you're going to have at least one person in every one of those briefing rooms going to say, excuse me, now that it's been confirmed that there's non-human intelligence here, clearly they're flying around in the skies, they have these saucers and going where they want, is the reports that we've been hearing about of people being abducted true? Do you know that? And the answer had better be yes, because if they try to play more games with this issue post-disclosure, they are going to get screwed. There's going to be no tolerance for it. I don't think in the announcement the president makes, I don't think it'll come up in the hearings in front of the Senate Intel Committee, but in the first briefings where members of press can ask questions of whoever, it's going to come up. And the moment that yes comes out, essentially that liberates every contactee in the world.
Ryan Graves recently was on News Nation with Ross Coulthart, and he brought up something, and he said something very small, but it was actually very big. And he was mentioning that these craft, this is a daily phenomenon for them. That they see them all the time out there. And he mentioned that they're there all day. And he's like, I've never seen anything that could fly around all day. And what I mean by that is alternative energy. Because like once we're like, okay, they're real, and some people are already asking this question because they already believe that they're here. How are they doing it? And is that a threat to, the companies that own fossil fuels and things like that? Are they in bed with the intelligence community and keeping that to themselves? Because it's like, what's the point of gasoline if you don't need it anymore?
I'm not as concerned about that. The massive energy industry in America has made vast fortunes off of generating energy for the civilization, which we certainly had to have. And the potential for superior energy technology is not the threat to them as people think. I get it. I mean, I understand why people go there, cui bono and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is that the energy industry has huge sums of money. And so two things you need to know. If the government revealed extraordinary new energy technology tomorrow because of a disclosure event, that's followed by that, it will take decades and decades for that to create the structures that will generate the energy. It's not like it's just coming out of the air. And so you're talking about trillions of dollars of infrastructure to create what amounts to other energy. Technically, we could run the entire planet if we had enough solar panels, but that many solar panels would cost trillions of dollars, okay? Mm-hmm. The energy industry will make a lot of those and make money. Mm-hmm. And secondly, they have those huge resources that they will then use to invest in companies that will be made possible or far more profitable because of very inexpensive energy. They're going to be richer than ever, okay, in the post-disclosure world. There are other things to be concerned about, but I'm not too worried about that. And there is no such thing as free energy. The infrastructure, the transmission, the closest thing to free energy might be a device that sits in your home that has a technology that allows it to generate all the electricity you need in your home. That would be damn near free, but you're going to have to pay for that device. And that means billions of them are going to be sold. So a lot of good money is going to be made, whatever. Do I think that's possible? I don't know. But I assure you, in terms, there will be a significant transition time to non-polluting, very cheap energy. But whatever it is, it could be 15 years. Everything will keep getting better from year to year to year to year. I mean, it would transform the world, but it's not going to transform it tomorrow, but it'll transform the world, right? And so so that I fully support. And again, another reason why the media and others need to get on the disclosure train, okay, I mean, getting on and supporting it and helping to get it going, is because the recriminations and the criticisms of the post-disclosure world are broad and deep. And I certainly can't imagine them all, but I can imagine some. Right now, 4 billion of our 8 billion people on this planet are living in distress. A couple of billion are up shit creek, okay? And you talk about fundamentals, housing, clothing, food, water, shelter, food, water, shelter, 2 billion minimum are terrible distress. 5 million children die a year from the lack of water in terms of either direct resource and or sanitation. 5 million children a year, every year. And those parents are very unhappy about that. And someday they're all going to kind of know who is responsible for this. And so we can't deal with this. Getting energy prices down 95% and creating tech that can be even moved around and made available around the world could go a long ways to dealing with this in a huge way. And so if disclosure takes place and the world comes to learn that you had it 10 years ago, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 years ago, and you kept it to yourselves, do you think they're going to be grateful? What do you think? How do you think it's going to look? Right? How many people have died because of this truth embargo? It is very difficult to assess. But I have a bad feeling that when the numbers are run in the post-disclosure world, it is going to be in the hundreds of millions. And everybody that supported this truth embargo is going to have to answer it. If not in the public space, in their own head, right? Mm-hmm. This is non-trivial stuff. This isn't just a simple little lie. It is like Pompeii, only the volcano is 1,000 times bigger. And when it blows, it kills hundreds of millions, not just tens of thousands. So the truth embargo is at that level of consequence. And the government goes to great lengths to diminish it, demean it, trivialize it, and put out all kinds of matters of distractions and so forth. It'll destroy religion. It'll destroy the economy, right? And people will have to go on drugs, whatever, all this nonsense, all crap.
Fear-mongering. Uh-huh.
So again, this is how I see this, and the kind of message I hope that more people can start to understand. Danny Sheehan, of course, is pushing this as well. New Paradigm Institute is now getting funding. It has much more funding, I think, coming. It's going to become a major think tank. It's already got an office in D.C. Another think tank has been set up by Gary Nolan, Seoul. This is out in Stanford. PRG is going to be a think tank. There's going to be more of this.
Good. And thanks for plugging those two, because I find them of high value. I love you, Danny. Love you, Gary. Mr. Bassett, how do you perceive the impact of Tom DeLonge and former To the Stars Academy spokesperson Lou Elizondo's emphasis on this threat narrative? It's not potential threat, it's a threat narrative associated with UFOs, like they've said in the past. Like specifically, do you believe this narrative influenced the congressional hearing on July 26, 2023? Where David Grush, Ryan Graves, and David Fravor testified? I saw that you're there in the audience. That was cool. Were their responses shaped by the framing of UFOs as potential threats due to To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge, or were their answers strictly from a military perspective?
Well, first of all, connecting Tom DeLonge and the threat thing, I don't see much there. Okay. The issue of potential threat has always been there, sure. And it turns up. Some people get a little carried away, some don't. But obviously, it's a potential threat, right? A kitchen knife sitting in a drawer is a potential threat, right? But this is a legitimate concern, right, that any government should at least know about and factor. But the potential threat, which is often misstated as threat, that's a mistake. Right. And some of the people that make that mistake acknowledge it. It was a significant component of this process that I'm talking about, this get everything set up and get ready for disclosure when it comes. If you want to get members of Congress involved, you can't go up on the Hill and say, we have got to get hearings on this because people are being abducted and they're creating hybrid children. And we've got to get that out there. We've got to interview this. Well, they are. But the point is, you think that's going to get Congress involved in this? You think that's going to get legislation? And notice that if you look at all the legislation, with this, what exception? There's 4 tranches of legislation, with the exception of one. Basically, it's a definitional reference. UFO doesn't even exist in that legislation. I don't have it because UAP is the comfortable, less stigmatic way of stigmatized way of doing it. Contact is not in there. Abduction is not in there. Of course not. Does that mean it's not true? No, it just means that is the path to get there. All right. And so the potential threat is a very legitimate basis for a member of Congress to address this issue without serious political consequence, and ultimately even for the president or scientist, whatever. Right. And does that mean they have to narrow their thinking or narrow their statements? It's kind of like a guy at the plate who knows that, like, if you want to get a hit, you can't swing it balls outside your strike zone. Right? And so they're keeping it in the strike zone, trying to move forward, hopefully get a hit. And then later on, we can get a little wild, swing on other pitches. And so, again, the threat is it's simply a potential threat. As far as Tom DeLonge, it's exactly like the launch of a missile. Not a nuclear missile, but when we go to the moon, right? It's a 5-stage rocket, I believe. Each stage plays an important role. The first stage is a major one, gets things off the pad, gets up in the orbit, and then it falls away. And that's exactly what Tom DeLonge's role was. The To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science was the initial launch vehicle, the booster, that got the thing off the pad. And once it got going, the To the Stars kind of stepped on back, changed its name. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences changed its name to the Stars. Tom got more back into music, make some money, don't blame him. To the Stars still exist and could very well have an interesting role in the post-disclosure world. And then others went forward. Eventually, Elizondo, Nolan, and Nolan left the To the Stars. Again, booster rockets or stage rockets, and they went off to be very significant factors in advancing towards the hearings and towards the legislation. And so that Tom's role in history will be, I think, viewed very favorably. They needed somebody to be the CEO of that group. And they decided that he was the right person. And I think it was probably a good call. It was not going to be easy to find somebody to be the CEO of whatever that entity was going to be called, To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences or whatever. And Tom was happy to do it. He was happy to put up the money to help get things going. And so I think he will be well served by history on this.
So I hear a lot of talk, rightfully so, about the post-disclosure world. And, going off that last question that I had about the testimonies of the congressional hearing, we've had testimony from whistleblowers with professional credentials and highly important positions within the government, military, et cetera. Do you see any way in which experiencers post-disclosure, such as myself and others, can ever have a voice that's given value? And would there ever be any kind of maybe compensation for abductees, witnesses who have been adversely affected, not by the phenomenon itself necessarily, but by the treatment they've been given by society itself? I mean, that's kind of one of those questions. Let's say we have disclosure and the next day is post-disclosure. We need to start making some steps to kind of rectify the past with the lies and the truth embargo. And also, not just for contact years down the road with extraterrestrial intelligences that have been behind the scenes interacting with people, but also for ourselves, for some kind of healing process to occur.
Governments in general are not big on compensations, right?
No, they're not.
They just don't do it. It's extremely rare, except on an individual basis. Sometimes, some collective. So in terms of the contactees, they'd have to get in line. There's a bunch of other groups ahead of them in line that also want compensation from the government. I don't think any of them are going to get it. That said, I'll make this prediction because where things are, if disclosure happens on Friday, which is what I think I would do if I was the president, the end of those hearings that week, 1 week of hearings is all we need. It's over. And that Friday evening, president comes out and says, look, I'm convinced that clearly it's true. We're not alone. You want to know more. We're going to get that information to you. We got all the stuff set up. It's all going to be great. And then everybody goes home and gets drunk Saturday to Sunday. And then come Monday, well, the game's afoot, right? And bingo, you've got the White House briefing room is packed. The briefing room over at the Department of Defense is packed. Every other briefing room is packed. And I'm going to make a prediction. On day one of the briefings, media briefings, contact is going to come up. It's out there. Too many people know about it. Too many journalists know about it. It's going to come up because they're unleashed at that point. There's no more constraints. It's not like, well, we don't want to talk about this now. We'll wait because the law. No. It's Pulitzer Prize time. There's low-hanging Pulitzer Prize fruit all over the friggin' place. And so day one, after disclosure, you're going to have at least one person in every one of those briefing rooms is going to say, excuse me, now that it's been confirmed that there's non-human intelligence here, clearly they're flying around in the skies. They have these saucers and go anywhere they want. Is the reports that we've been hearing about of people being abducted true? Do you know that? And the answer had better be yes. Because if they try to play more games with this issue post-disclosure, they are going to get screwed. there's going to be no tolerance for it. And so right away, I don't think in the announcement the president makes, I don't think it'll come up in the hearings in front of the Senate Intel Committee, but in the first briefings where members of press can ask questions of whoever, it's going to come up. And the moment that yes comes out, essentially that liberates every contactee in the world. And now it's all restrictions are off. They're going to be coming forward in droves. They're going to be sought after. There's going to be interviews and blah, 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 and on and on and on. And very quickly, they're going to become a major fact in the post-disclosure world. Why? Because think about it. If the governments of the world acknowledge we are not alone and there's non-human intelligence here, everybody's going to want to know about the non-human intelligence. Now, they could go and ask the New York Times, or they could ask the Pentagon, or you could go ask a contactee. Yes. Who better to ask than people who have actually been on their ships? And so people are going to be looking for any contactee they can find. And everyone that they knew about, but they laughed it off. Maybe from years, they're going to go find them in their, on their in their email or whatever. Oh, that person, they're going to send them an email. Hi, how's it going? I really am sorry that I kind of dismissed your thingy. Right. But would you like to have dinner sometime? I mean, literally, contactees are going to become a major focus of the world's attention because these are the people that have had direct engagement with the extraterrestrials the government just confirmed is here. And there's a lot of people in the Pentagon and others that are going, oh, we can't have that. Oh, my God. These people are going to be talking about this and that and everything else, the abduction, the hybrid stuff. Oh, my God. Hey, tough, right? If you wanted this to be a more orderly process, if you wanted to have like a long process in which people are learning what's going on simultaneous with the government, and slowly it expands and our understanding expands, and the academic community is involved doing academic things as opposed to sitting on their ass, then you should have told the truth at Roswell.
Thank you.
Truman should have told Ramey, look, just sit on this for a week. We got to decide how to do this. And he comes back and says, okay, Roger, confirm it. We're going to make an announcement in front of, in Washington that we have an ET presence. Or they could have confirmed it after the flyovers in July of 1952. They're all over the damn place. They could have come forward and said, look, it's clear we have ET. They could have done that. They didn't. Right. And so they're going to have to deal with the reality that 77 years of lying is going to come to an end. And they're going to have to deal with that, how that is going to play out. And some are going to retire. Some are going to dig in and say, I can lie my way out of this. I'll be okay. I'll just keep lying. I'll keep this lying. Nobody will bother me. I'm taking my name out of people's phone books. I'm closing out my social media accounts, whatever. I guess the fact is, this is a bed they made, and they're going to have to lie in it. I'm willing to, gently pull back the covers. Right? Whisper in their ear, put a nice little alarm going on the clock to say, hey, get up, wake up, let's get going. We have a new world to build. Not everybody is going to be so generous. And that's just too bad. Those in government that do not feel they can deal with the post-disclosure world, change jobs, whatever you got to do, move on. It's okay. You probably made some decent money unless you blew it in crypto. So we'll have people that are step in that are fresh and new and ready to deal with this. But if you really can't bear the pain of having to face up to the fact that, you participated in the greatest lie in all of time, history, it's okay. We're not going to chase you down. We're not going to run you down in, New Zealand, where you've got a little bungalow. No, move on. Enjoy your life. We have a new world to build. We don't want to go backwards. We need to think forward.
That's compensation enough as an experiencer, for me at least. It's just that respect given is so missing right now. But again, I understand because of the process that, we will become a major contributor.
Contactees have a beef, and I get it, but they need to understand. I mean, you think you got a beef? Look how we treat our vets.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
You know what the suicide rate is amongst our vets? Because it's like you had a rough time over there, but what can we do? Let's get on with your life.
Terrible.
Things have to be kept in perspective.
Sure,
but still, they need to be acknowledged and appreciated and respected and allowed to tell their truth. I think there's so many of them, they'll eventually come together and create political entities and become perhaps a political force in America. It would be fascinating to see that happen.
And I think they should, honestly.
So you already touched on a couple of points about this, but let's say disclosure was to happen Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the next steps? Contactees and the attention they would get, obvious, that's perfect. You explained that beautifully. But what are the next steps? And I ask because I know that there are people out there that don't care, or there are people who are like, well, I got bills to pay. Why? So what if we're not alone in the universe? What is that? How's that going to affect my life? So what would happen next? And we can hypothesize. That's totally fine. In your
Yeah,
world.
the civilization advances not because 90% of everybody gets on board something. Most people
Mhm.
live their lives. Civilization advances because a meaningful percentage of a society decides we need to go in a certain direction, and they go there, and the rest follow. Nothing.
Right.
In other words, and scientific advancement is not a democracy. We don't take a vote. Does 53% of the American people believe in relativity? Oh yeah, well I guess it's true. No, no, no. Relativity was established when 99% of the people didn't even know what the hell it was. So, okay, there are several hundred million steps that will take place, but let's talk about a few early ones. First, the one thing you can expect: hearings upon hearings upon hearings. Everybody that has any hook to this issue is going to want to have a hearing, right? Because that's how you get the cameras in there. That's how you show your face. Political careers, journalistic careers will be made over this. The Congress obviously has been essentially kept out of this issue for 70 some years. They want to get back in big time. And so they're all going to hold hearings. The energy committees, oversight, appropriations, national defense, intelligence are all going to be having hearings, and they better damn well be paying the travel and the hotel bills of the people they bring in. So that's going to go on for months and months. But unlike the months and months of hearings we tend to hold, some political thing that we hold 100 hearings on to accomplish nothing, every one of these will be meaningful. So people will follow some of them, and by the way, all these hearings go into the record. They're all recorded. Many will be public, so this will be vast, huge record of information transfer in these hearings, which will help decisions on legislation as well as inform people from relatively authoritative sources. In other words, every source has got flaws, but it's hard to beat information being provided to a committee under oath in public, where the penalty of lying is perjury. I mean, is jail. And so this will be a huge source of information. Now, these are going to go on for months, starting very quickly after disclosure. The other thing is all the journalistic entities out there seeing potential subscriptions and Pulitzer Prizes are going to get on board and start digging in their files and seeing how many things they can revisit and get right and so forth and do good journalism. There's going to be plenty of that. And that's great because even though it's shrinking, there's still a huge amount of well-funded journalism in America that when they get serious about something, boy, they can really go to town.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, increasingly what they go to town on is of little consequence. And what's of real consequence, they're afraid to deal with. But that said, there'll be plenty of that. So there'll be a lot of journalism. The academic community will move quickly to establish education programs in their universities. Exopolitical science, exobiology, exoarchaeology, whatever the hell, right? They're going to create departments to deal with everything ET related. Now, I hope they do that. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to let them forget that the academic engagement of this issue by the United States colleges and universities is one of the greatest intellectual failures of all time. I mean, it's off the charts, right? In other words, you got 5,000 colleges and universities that have had a couple of million professors go through, and their fundamental position is there's no volcano there. There's no volcano. There's nothing there. What are you worried about, right? Stay in Pompeii. Enjoy. There's nothing there. And we're certainly not going to teach about it, study it, or anything like that. It's off the books. Because the government would be upset, and we get lots of funding for the government. And so they stood down. 77 years and only a couple of vanity programs taught on this issue in 5,000 colleges and universities and millions of professors. That makes the denial of the centered universe by the Catholic Church pale in comparison, right? They stood down. Utterly cowardly act. They did not want to offend anybody. They didn't want to upset the government. They didn't want to look silly. And while the evidence was everywhere, and I'm sure there are plenty of professors that have been contactees, they completely abandoned this issue. While there's other things they dive into with abandon and make fools of themselves. And so they have a lot to answer for. And well, the way they're going to answer for it and probably get some funding is they're going to be setting up departments like crazy, right?
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And hopefully they'll be bringing in guys like me to speak. Well, please come, Steve. We want you to talk to the faculty. We have a big auditorium there. And I'm going, yeah, okay. What's the honorarium, guys? But that's true of all my colleagues. We are going to be in demand to speak at the universities. I hope we will be, how would you say, appreciative and not arrogant and not say things like I'm saying right now. The point is that they're going to need us badly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the college universities will get on this right away. That's very important. Then the internet, which is the future of education on our planet. For those that are paying attention, you probably know that we are going to soon be leaving the whole era of schools with rooms with desks in them, with changing classes and running around the hallways and spending 20 minutes to get there in a bus in the morning and all of that stuff. It's going to disappear because it costs
Very
too
good
much.
point.
It doesn't work very well. We're going to enter the age of essentially autodidactism, but not entirely. The moment you really can get a proper and acknowledged degree from a quote online university that will get you a good job, anybody that goes to a major college and pays $50,000 a year is out of their mind. But then it's going to extend down into high school. And so you're looking at homeschooling, I guess, in a sense. You may look at collective internet teaching. There's a lot of ways, but the old way of teaching is going to be gone. It simply doesn't work. Hell, they can't even keep control of the classrooms, right?
Yeah,
right? I mean, you've got teachers that are in Tennessee are being told they need to wear, I think it's Tennessee, that need to arm themselves. You got
That's
teachers
true.
being shot. I mean, it's like, hey, online education is a lot safer than that. And so that's where everything is going. And the need for the entire planet to learn everything about the ET issue and ET history all at once is going to drive people to self-education on the net. And I'm sure there will be plenty of backed and useful and possibly subscription programs where you can get this information as opposed to going and reading 1,000 Kindle books. But it'll be orchestrated, it'll be organized, it will be backed up. There will be curriculum. I mean, there will be a lists of reading material, all that kind of stuff. In other words, it's going to be a global self-education process online where the world is going to learn about this subject, and it's going to be part of the transition to virtually worldwide online education. There is an MSNBC program that is The Last Word with O'Donnell. He's a wonderful man, he's a good man, and he has been running for years the KIND program, Kids in Need of Desk, and he promotes it constantly, and they raise money, and he has they have bought a huge number of desks to give to kids in Africa who don't even have a desk. I get that. And so they have a desk now and a chair. And so now it's a little easier for them to listen to a teacher and maybe take some notes. I respect that completely. And that's what they need right now. But what they really need is the internet everywhere. 8 billion people, unless they choose to live out in the woods or in a cave, that's fine. Just don't want to, that's okay. But if they want to be part of civilization, 8 billion people have access to the internet, and they're going to learn that way. And they may or may not need a desk in any way, throwing shade on that program, Kind to Kind, Kids in Need of Desk program. That's what they need. By God, they need it. But it's such a shame that is what they need, right? As opposed to access to the vast learning system. Now, it's also the case that when AI becomes a major component of the education process, then things get even more interesting, because the ability to convey advanced information directly in that way, monitored to some degree, is going to be very important, because there's a lot of people that need to be educated. There's 8 billion people. How many teachers have we got? Not so many. So AI is going to be a factor in what we'll call the autodidactism of the 21st century. And I just as porn virtually helped build the internet in the earliest days, literally, and just like sex robots have done probably more than anything else to advance the technology of robotics, ability to create robots that look very much like humans and eventually will look pretty much like the ones you see in the movies. The ET issue is going to be the driving force, the lead dog that is going to take us into basically a global internet-based very much DIY, autodidactic, but certainly also monitored and formalized education process. We cannot move forward in the 21st century dealing with the problems we're faced, where at any given time, 3 or 4 billion people just barely able to get through the day, and actually learning something of importance is just a luxury. We can't do that, because if we continue down that road, one day, 2 or 3 of those billion people are going to show up at our door, right? And they're not going to be happy. They're going to be carrying pitchforks and torches. And they're going to say, yeah, we're done now. We're fed up. Now it's time for you to go. This has happened before. Now there's just more people to participate in that mess. So we got to get our act together. We got to do a number of things. We need to fix this planet, and we have the means to do it. We know pretty much what is needed in almost every problem that we face. Really, we do. I mean, there's an answer, a basic fundamental answer to every major problem. We just won't do it. We don't fix it. We don't have the will to do it. Won't do it. And we think, well, everything will work out then, won't it? No.
Right. Currently live in the great state of Tennessee. I'm not a resident born and raised here, but I live in Tennessee right now. And over the past several years, I've become, at least on the UAP issue, a fan of Tim Burchett. And I think that personally, that the work that he's doing, I saw in another interview, you referred to him as, you have the good cop and you have the bad cop. And he's kind of like the bad cop. He's going out there, he says what he wants to say. He's pretty much unfiltered. And I really admire that about him. That's something that Tennesseans, I've found out here have. And so with great respect. And, I know that I've also heard that there's another hearing that's being considered for later in this year. I can't really remember what month that they were kind of alluding to. And that, we are still having whistleblowers coming to Congress.
Witnesses.
Sorry. I apologize for my terminology. Witnesses. And who have been involved in these programs, et cetera, et cetera. Have you heard anything else about any other congressional hearings or other hearings that we might be having come up within Congress in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the House wants to have another one without question. And it's just a question of when they're going to do it. So we know that. There is a rumor that Chuck Schumer is thinking about reintroducing the UAP Disclosure Act as is before disclosure, before the election, before disclosure. He needs to do that, right?
I agree.
And put, in other words, if he does it again, the defense contractors have a much more difficult problem. He could introduce it without eminent domain, in which case a good deal of the resistance falls away and he can get everything else, right? So that's one of his options. But even if he includes eminent domain, one of the principal levers that the opponents to that bill and its powers, and particularly eminent domain, had was that it was going to be part of the National Defense Authorization Act. That's one of the most important bills out there. And to the extent that that couldn't get resolved, the bill was going to be held up. Mike Johnson could have simply said, I'm not going to let this bill come to the floor until that language is out of here. Whatever the hell. That gave him a little extra, power. Schumer introduces the bill standalone. That's all gone. And then the Senate will pass it. I guarantee it. And now it goes to the House. What are they going to do? Are they going to start the whole process over again? And they're going to have to be even more public about it, more blatant, where certain members of Congress much more openly are going to have to come forward and say, absolutely, there is no way that we're going to give the government a power to take away the opportunity for the defense contractors to make trillions of dollars from the non-human tech and non-human bodies. Oh, did I say non-human tech? And I didn't mean to say. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that. But just in general, no. So Schumer knows he can really do that. So that is in play. There is still, I think, there's some legitimacy to the possibility that, and not just pure speculation, that that Warner will hold a hearing. I realize the politics is just getting worse and worse, but it really comes down to this: he's either going to hold the hearing right now, or he's going to have to hold out until after the election. And I'm suggesting that after the election could be a rather uncomfortable time. It may not go the way they hope. It's going to be incredibly tumultuous. One of the movies, very popular movies right now, that's not only selling a lot of tickets, but getting good reviews, is called, wait for it, Civil War. You probably haven't seen it yet, John. I'll be seeing it shortly. It's not like that one from years ago. What was that one? Years ago it was called... some movies, Red Dawn, I think it was called.
Yes, I remember that.
This is not like that. This is like this is going to happen kind of movie, and well done. So when Hollywood is making legitimate attempts to describe the coming civil war, I'm thinking delay is not good policy. And so one of the most important things that happened in the Grush hearing that some people noted, but most people probably didn't even think much about, is that at least twice, maybe three times, members of the subcommittee, House Oversight Subcommittee, including Burchett, Mace, and Luna, but at least twice, I think three times, they went out of their way to say this is a nonpartisan issue. Mm-hmm. And it's been said in other contexts because it is a nonpartisan issue.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so how important is that? I cannot tell you how important that is. Okay. What the message there is pretty clear. There is an issue in the world today that transcends religion and politics and finance. And because it does, people on the opposite sides of anything can talk about this without having to get into the contretemps that have become legion. This issue really is the way that the ultra-left and ultra-right and the kind of left and kind of right can address it together without having to get into any of their other points of difference, which have been risen to the level of practically bloodshed. They can actually be in the same room together talking about something more important, in my view, than any of the other issues that they're beating each other in the head with. In other words, in that sense, it's unbelievably valuable to the country if the right and the left can actually start talking about this, engaging this, and moving forward on this, and the people seeing that happen and suck some of the venom out of our politics. I'm not saying it's going to cure everything, by no means, but it is the pathway to relative nonpartisan engagement that could then spread to other issues, maybe not the most bitterly contested, but others. It may be the solution to our political nightmare right now, which is off the charts. I mean, it couldn't be any worse. And so that, in one sense, could be one of the most important aspects of what's going down. And so if Mark Warner thinks that by waiting until after the election, the political hatreds and contretemps are going to settle down, no, we may be in full-fledged civil war. And, the Capitol is walled off. You got people everywhere, right? You got stuff and riots breaking out in different cities, whatever the hell. And obviously, that's not helpful. But right now, there is no reason why he can't hold those hearings. The witnesses are not getting any younger. A few more will probably die off in the next few months. Some of the most important witnesses could die. And so he could hold that hearing right now, no problem. It's not going to upset the election. It's not going to change much, but it's going to advance this issue. And if it leads to disclosure now, if we got disclosure, say, the next 3 or 4 weeks, whatever is going to be said during this election, whatever outrageous position is going to be taken, outrageous statement is going to be made, awful ad is going to be run on television. Everybody running for Congress and the Senate will have a safe haven. They can speak to the fact that we are not alone in the universe because the president just confirmed it, and now it's coming out and hearings are happening and we're in a new world. And I want to talk about that. This is what I think about that. They will have that opportunity. And right now, the one person that can give him that opportunity is Senator Mark Warner, a good man, but he has to act. He has to do it. And it really comes down to do it now or do it after the election, assuming you can even have a hearing after the election, right? What if a nuclear war breaks out in the Ukraine? Then what? You think this issue is going to be sidetracked? Yeah, it is. Look, I've been at this a long time, so yeah, I want it done. I want it to happen. Yeah, I get it. I like to think, though, that the logic behind doing it is pretty compelling. Okay, promo number 1, 10th anniversary of Contact in the Desert, Indian Wells Resort, deluxe, swimming pool, all kinds of stuff. May 30, June 3, 70 speakers, 6 tracks, banquet, the whole 9 yards. Go to the website. The website is spectacular, contactinthedesert.org. All the rooms in the Indian Wells Resort are booked. However, there are scores and scores and scores of hotels close by, and many of them are cheaper. All right. Also, this year, for the first time, I don't know why it hasn't been the case in the past, but they are allowing day passes as opposed to all or nothing.
Oh, good.
And so, and we're going to be advertising extensively in Orange County and LA County for people who just want to drive on over and go for the day. Or, try for a day. And if they like, go get a hotel and then go to the whole thing. So it's going to be, it's more open. So that is coming. Contactinthedesert.org. The New Paradigm Institute is now raising nonprofit and tax-deductible funds for that think tank, newparadigminstitute.org. There's going to be a fundraiser in Washington, D.C. very soon, and there are other fundraisers around the country. This is potentially going to be the most important think tank post-disclosure. Others will join in, of course, but it's got the history and it's got the background. So Danny Sheehan's New Paradigm Institute, that is happening.
Yes.
I need a vacation. I mean, I haven't had a vacation in 28 years, really.
Yeah.
And I've gone, I do my thing. I'm happy. But after the Arrow report, I was thinking I really do need a vacation. So as it happens, I've been offered an opportunity to lecture on a cruise called Contact at Sea, which is going to be in early September from Seattle to Alaska. And so check out Contact at Sea. I think that's all you need to do is Google that. Once I get to Alaska, do I get back on the boat? I don't know. I'll have to decide when I get there. I just filed as a nonprofit with Washington, D.C. I'm about to file for the 501c3 status. So for the first time since it was created in 96, it will be able to accept tax-deductible contributions. And so I'm doing that because I'm going to convert it to a think tank, anticipating the post-disclosure world. And obviously, the list of things that one can do in that arena is great, but it's all about the funding. If you've got the funding, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. So, Danny Sheehan will have his think tank based in Washington. His office is right up one block from the Capitol. My little think tank, little tiny think tank, it will be based in D.C. as well, one block from the White House in the National Press Club. It's kind of cool, right? Okay, so there's that. Let me see. I think there's at Steve Bassett. I'll take all the Twitter followers I can get, folks. So follow me and retweet and all that kind of stuff. Twitter is an extremely important activist tool. I mean, believe me, it's very significant in terms of the process underway. How you use it matters, but depending upon who your followers are and what handles you use. Right now, UFO Twitter is a major handle. You can get a realm of information coming through you follow. So in that sense, it's extremely important. So follow me on Twitter.
Well, I want to just go ahead and say before we leave, thanks everybody for watching. Like, subscribe, share, follow Cosmic Convergence, follow Mr. Steve Bassett and his work. Imperative, important. Let's end the truth embargo. Let's work towards disclosure and then deal with the post-disclosure world. And let's free ourselves from the chains of lies. Thank you, sir. Again, thank you so much.